guys, it's Sophie. Today I'm going to be doing my first ever book talk. It's going to be on this book, The Silence of Six by E.C. Myers. And I've actually just finished this one. But I wanted to have a proper sort of discussion on this one rather than just sort of talk about it in a wrap up. So this book is sort of, for the majority of the themes in the book are surrounding hacking and specifically hacktivism. So if anyone doesn't know what that is, essentially it's the act of hacking into systems, computer systems, or any other kind of electronic systems in order to further an aim. So hacktivism can be the same way activism can be. It can be useful and it can be, toward that cause, or it can be, as you might imagine in sort of activism, it could just be people being swept up in it and just being mean. It could just be essentially like rioting without purpose, or people who go in and in a riot they aren't protesting, they're just stealing things. And that's kind of what the hacking world's like too. So you have people who go in just to make money and screw people over, and people who go in to make a change. So that's the theme that this is around. So in this book we follow a boy called Max, who at the very beginning has a presidential debate that's held at his school. So a lot of the topics that the potential presidents are debating around are going to be around sort of internet privacy and around education. So they decide to do it in this school, and just sort of see what it's like being able to put things out and have the children or teenagers putting things out on social media at the same time and sort of having that connection there. So they begin to watch this debate with sort of questions being given from people and school children from all over the world, from all over the country, who want to know, for example, about climate change, and the two presidents debate, like you imagine. Only toward the end, the video feed gets jittery and odd, and this face comes up, this guy in a hood with a mask underneath. And he asks, what is the silence of six and what are you going to do about it? And then he kills himself on camera. And that's the setup. That is the very beginning of the book. And it follows Max, as I said, who knew the person who did this, and it's trying to find out why his friend would do something like that and what on earth was so important that he thought he had to die for. So what this book really reminded me of was actually another book written by Glenn Greenwald, which is called No Place to Hide. So this is a book written by Glenn Greenwald, who was one of the reporters who sort of helped break the story on Edward Snowden and the NSA. It's a very good book, and you should definitely check it out if you're interested in internet culture and sort of what privacy means. It did have sort of similar kind of themes. It did have a bit of scaremongering around privacy. I know that it's obviously a real issue and that companies do sell our data all the time. But yeah, it's good to pick up on that. In terms of my thoughts on this book, just to sort of be brief, I would say I give it a sort of 3.5 out of 5 stars, which rounds to a 4 on Goodreads. I liked the story and I thought it was really unique. I've never read anything about hacktivists before, and I think it's brilliant that it's really on it. You can tell it feels modern. It feels as though the author has a sense of what's going on in that kind of world and sort of how it plays out, how it links with your real life. I didn't think that potentially some of the characters were the best characters I'd ever read in a YA book. And I did have some issues with the decisions the characters made, in terms of thinking, well, what would you actually do in this circumstance? But not to an extent that I didn't enjoy the book, purely just thinking, well, I can understand that practically that might seem like the best idea, but really you're 17 and do you know what I mean? It didn't feel as though it could really happen. I think you'd enjoy this book if you're interested in internet culture, and specifically if you are interested already in privacy and in internet privacy. And so if you follow those debates and those sort of things, I think you would find this interesting. And for those who don't know much about it, it might actually be quite a good sort of introduction to that world before reading something a bit more serious about it, because it does have real links to, it does have links to what's happened in reality. That's the truth of it, is that it's not too far from what we might imagine information could be used for. Overall, I would recommend this book to certain people. I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. I don't think it would appeal to everyone. And to be perfectly honest, I'd probably rather read myself about things that actually have happened in regards to this. But I did think it was a good novel and a good sort of fictionalisation of that. So hopefully that's provided a little bit of information on this book. I've not seen too much about it, though Adapted Books, who are the publishing house, are very vocal on Twitter, sort of tweeting people back and forth. But I haven't heard anyone really talk about it, so I just thought I'd make a full video on it just to sort of raise some awareness for it. I think a lot of people would like it if you are interested in sort of internet culture and you're of the right age. I think it's very much for older teenagers. That's what I would say. I think it's just got a very specific age range, really. I think people who are late 20s might not necessarily get it so much. And yeah. Go ahead, go read this, let me know what you think. I've not really heard of anyone else who's read this yet, so do tell me if you have any opinions on this book, what you thought, whether you'd recommend it. I will see you in my next video.